Hello everyone, today I'm going to have a new video going over... Hello, I hope everyone out there is having a happy Halloween. Today, I'm going to be going over my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street films. The original 7, going from my least favorite to most favorite. Now, this will include everything except the remake and Freddy vs. Jason. Just the original to Wes Craven's new Nightmare. To start off with, my least favorite would be Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Now, The Dream Child is a very stylistic movie, but it's just a very, very weak sequel, especially after everything that happened in Dream Warriors and The Dream Master. And even though it does have some great visuals, the supporting cast is really, really bad as far as the acting, and the story is very incoherent. But it pretty much deals with the character of Alice having a kid and Freddy Krueger basically trying to inhabit the body of her unborn child. And it's a pretty ballsy, crazy movie. There's some really great sequences and really great uses of effects. And I can't really decide which one's worse, whether it be 5 or Part 2, Freddys Revenge. I don't know, but 5 to me is a little bit weaker, and Freddy is not as menacing. He's more comedic in this. There is some very crazy kills, but ultimately they get toned down due to budget restrictions or ratings. And there is a longer cut with a motorcycle death where somebody gets turned to a vehicle. There's a longer sequence where somebody's basically being fed food by force, and it's just crazy. Freddy Krueger just feeding this person. There is a cool comic book sequence, and that is kind of a bit like Take On Me by Aha, and it's a very good sequence as well as a final battle. But ultimately, right from the beginning with the makeout scene with the body double, there's a crazy steamy sex scene onward. The movie's just kind of weird and out there, and the characters, most of all, aren't as compelling as they are in the previous ones. Even Alice doesn't kick as much ass as she did in The Dream Master. Ultimately, franchise fatigue is very, very apparent in this 5th installment, and it's not as strong as the other films. And for me, with the acting and some of the effects and just the way Freddy is, it's not enjoyable. He is comedic in other installments. Freddys Dead, he's a lot more comedic than in The Dream Child, but The Dream Child's just really, really out there. And it's not the surreal aspect, it's the fact that it's a little bit boring and it's not as entertaining. You do get a cool flashback sequence with Amanda Krueger in a cell with 100 maniacs and them just basically assaulting her and Freddy Krueger being born. So there is that paternal figure. You see Amanda Krueger's spirit protect Alice and want to fight Freddy. There is a cool final battle. Yeah, they have the kid from Jurassic Park in there as well. But it's just some crazy stuff, and the effects are very well done. It was very imaginative. Despite the story being weaker, this film does have a vision. But I just like the other films much more. Above The Dream Child would be A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddys Revenge. This is a really bad sequel, but I have it ranked above The Dream Child because the characters are a little bit more compelling, and Freddy Krueger was still dark and scary here. And I have to say, that's one thing I respect about this film. It totally broke away from the conventions and rules that were set up in A Nightmare on Elm Street, but Freddy was not a comedic joke yet. He didn't have the one-liners. He was a menacing son of a bitch in this. And it's more of a possession movie of him trying to take over Jesse's body. You have this character of Jesse. It's also one of the most unintentionally homosexual movies ever made. Yeah, just imagine cleaning your room like this.
Take that, Dad.
Hold me, baby, drive me crazy, touch me all night long, make me love you, kiss and hug you, touch me all night long.
No, 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 don't clean your room like that. That scene, yeah. That scene where he's dancing, that was just a poor man's risky business. And yeah, nothing says closeted homosexual like that, or the part where they go to the freaking Gimp Club and that shower scene. Just a lot of weird stuff. And then him and his friend were just like, Freddy Krueger's after me. He's like, you want to come sleep with me? I have a review of all the movies, but yeah, it's not really subtext, it's just more of text. But besides that, you have his girlfriend, who's a very good character. She kind of reminds me of a younger Meryl Streep. His parents are kind of annoying, and the color palette's a little weird. It's almost like seeing Night of the Living Dummy and then seeing how the cover of Night of the Living Dummy 2 from Goosebumps looks. But there is some scary, weird possession stuff of like fire and birds busting into flames. And Freddy Krueger does come out to the real world. It breaks the rules, but hey, it's nice seeing him kill a whole bunch of people. He almost becomes like a Jason Michael character then, but he just says one of the best lines where he's just like, "You all out there are my children now." I love that moment. Such a great line from the Elm Street series, and even the part where he talks about sharing minds. The visual effects are scary. The kills. His razor claw isn't really a glove, it's more on his fingers. The part where he basically see Freddy's eye come out of Jesse is just nuts. And then the whole ending of love prevailing, and then also with the school bus, how, yeah, nothing really ever ends in Elm Street. Freddy always finds a way to win. This movie has many, many flaws, but I do respect it for it being a dark Freddy Krueger film. But it was a misstep, and I feel like it wasn't the sequel we all deserved to A Nightmare on Elm Street. After that would be Freddys Dead, The Final Nightmare. A lot of people cite this as a worst film, but I actually enjoy it. Sure, he was comedic, it wasn't scary, it could have gone back to its roots. He did get killed off in much better ways in the previous films than he did in this, but you know what? It's an enjoyable Looney Tunes type of Freddy Krueger film, and I had fun with this. I have a lot more fun watching this than I do the others. I go over some cool things with Freddy Krueger having a kid, and then an Elm Street being everywhere. All the Elm Street children almost dead. You see a town, basically the Springwood slasher, kill all these children. You see Springwood, what it's like when there's no kids around, and it's very, very, very haunting. It takes place in 2001, even though it's in 1991, but it looks very 90s. You do have a cameo from Johnny Depp, and it does have some great sequences, whether it be the Wizard of Oz-esque type of sequence, Elm Street Everywhere, the ending, and they basically made this to be released in 3D and as a gimmick for the last Freddy movie. And it's sad because the 3D just wasn't up there, but I do like their ambition, even though it was kind of a crazy backstory with the Dream Gods. Ultimately, it's a self-destruction of a franchise, but I do like Freddys Dead, The Final Nightmare. I do like Lisa Zane's performance. The other actors in there, you have the actor who came out in Alien. He's fantastic. They bring a lot of gravitas to the project, and Robert Englund owns the role. Even with the freaking Nintendo gaming glove was funny. And I'm Awake Now by the Goo Goo Dolls. I love that song. Don't fall asleep tonight. I'm awake now. I just love that. Such an awesome opening and an enjoyable film. And yeah, it's the end. And don't forget Iggy Pop's song as well. Oh my god. And you have Alice Cooper play Freddy Krueger's abusive dad. Holy shit. It was just crazy. Crazy, crazy. It was nice seeing the different backstory to Elm Street. And you also had the director. She worked on all the other films. So it was nice seeing her in the director's chair. And that was the end of Freddy. Above that, I would have A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master, directed by Rennie Harlan. And my only beef with this is that you could tell they were trying to cash in on the success of Dream Warriors, but it was very much like the MTV type of Nightmare on Elm Street. My only beef is that they weren't able to get Patricia Arquette back, and I kind of feel sorry for Tuesday Night because that's an impossible predicament of just basically being a character that everybody fell in love with. That'd be like if they recast Nancy in the second film. I would feel sorry for that actor taking on that role, but she does provide an awesome song called Nightmare at the beginning. Running through this nightmare. Yeah, the soundtrack is awesome. You have the Divinyls, Back to the Wall, Anything, Anything, Anything by Dramarama. Yeah, it features one crazy scene where the budget was so low that they had this guy basically do karate on an invisible Freddy. Probably the worst death and kill and just sequence in the entire franchise. But you have that opening, you get to see like the modern New Line Cinema logo with like the film reels like you do in Mortal Kombat and The Mask and so many other films in the 90s, but you have the Kincaid back and then the other characters that survived from Dream Warriors, and it's kind of cool seeing that. My only beef, too, is that I wish that these characters were in the film a lot longer. They all get killed, like, in the first 20 minutes. It would have been interesting to see the same people try to survive the whole movie, much like Nancy in Dream Warriors, but It has a cool opening, and yeah, a dog pisses fire to resurrect Freddy Krueger. That's just crazy. But even crazier than that is that the dog's name is in fact Jason. Holy cow. Anyway, you find out after they died that Kristen brings Alice, this character of Alice, into her dreams, and she's like a dream master. She has these powers where she can get people's abilities and fight Freddy Krueger. Very different, but it does provide a unique element to it, and she starts off as a shy, kind of timid woman, and she becomes very kick-ass and strong by the end, and you figure out the reason why Freddy survived is he still had all the souls from the children he killed trapped inside him, fueling his power. So it was kind of cool seeing the souls inside him basically destroy him at the end. A much better end than Freddys Dead, the Final Nightmare, and this really should have been the end. I could live with this as the end. Even Dream Warriors was a better ending, but this one I could live with it. And it does hint at a sequel, but not as much as the previous ones. But ultimately, again, some of the supporting characters, they're not as compelling or not as strong. The writing isn't as good. You can definitely tell which ones Wes Craven had an involvement with, 1, 3, and 7. But I think out of all the other sequels, this is probably the best one. It's enjoyable and has an MTV vibe. The visuals are very different. It tries to do something different. And it has an identity on its own. And of course, Freddy Krueger is comedic, but he's still like a comedic. He's still very playful in this film, so it's nice seeing that. Above the Dream Master, this is kind of hard. The last three I kind of flip and flop depending what mood I'm in. But right now, I'm going to go with the Dream Warriors.
We're the Dream Warriors.
Maybe tonight you'll be gone. I love that song. Fucking Dawkins is amazing. And then you have Into the Fire. And then Patricia Arquette, very early movie of hers, playing Kristen. Heather Langenkamp is back as Nancy. John Saxon as her father. You have the guy who looks like Bill Maher, like Real Time with Bill Maher. It's a guy from Body Double that's directed by Brian De Palma, but it's a great story. I like all the characters. They're very compelling. You have the Wizard Master. You have Tamron. Yeah, she's cool. She has a bad death of like, let's get high. And then you have like the other woman who wants to be an actress. He's just like, welcome to prime time, bitch. I just love that. Lawrence Fishburne is known as Larry Fishburne. Just so many cool things. And you find out in this one, he's alive because they didn't bury his body in holy ground. They dumped him in the junkyard after they burned him. So he needed to be buried with holy water. Very biblical, very much like a monster, like a vampire. It had that whole motif, whole history. And Wes Craven had the idea for the abilities, and then you had another writer basically take it over, and then a director. Such a great movie. Maybe even the best, but definitely the best of the sequels of the original 6 as far as the Elm Street storyline. This really should have been part 2. Dream Warriors feels like the natural sequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street. It had the tone, it knew what it was, it got back to form, and it is just an amazing film. Some may say overrated, that's fair enough, but Dream Warriors is just an awesome movie, and that's how horror sequels should be done. Now, it did add a comedic side to Freddy, and this could be cited as a downfall for the series, but he was still a sadistic bastard that liked to play with people, so I liked the humor because it was more of like him playing upon their strengths and fears and just using it against him. The part of the nurse, Joey being like basically infatuated with hot women, Tamron with the drugs, Kristen and her mother, that type of relationship, and then eventually using Nancy's father to destroy her. Such a crazy, dark ending. I didn't entirely agree with, but hey, it was cool seeing people actually fight back in their dreams, and it added something new. It elevated the material, it further progressed the storyline of the franchise while also remaining true to the source material. Dream Warriors is a blast from beginning to end. Above the Dream Warriors, I have Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, I know it's not exactly the Elm Street legacy, but hey, it's directed by the guy who did the original, the creator of Freddy Krueger. And this is like the last action hero of horror movies. Freddy Krueger is trying to come out of the movie world into the real world. And you have Heather Langenkamp, Robert Englund, Wes Craven. Everybody's playing a version of themselves, a caricature. John Saxon. And it basically is a analysis and commentary not only on horror films in Hollywood, but also the Elm Street series at the time. such an underrated movie that's very meta, before meta was even a thing in horror. It's before Scream. And it's sad that this was released the same weekend as Pulp Fiction, because it's such an underrated horror film, and probably the best out of the Elm Street franchise, out of the originals after A Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven did an amazing job with this, and I wish this is a final one made, because this just ended it all the right way. Freddy was dark. That whole part was like, did you miss me? They redesigned his face, and sometimes it does work. Other times it looks very fake, and I kind of wish they kept the original makeup. But you got some references to Repulsion, Nosferatu, many other horror references, and it's kind of cool seeing Heather Langenkamp play the role of Nancy again 10 years later. You have the kid. Her son is a kid from Pet Sematary, so that's kind of cool. It's an enjoyable movie. If you're a cinephile, a horror fan, a Freddy Krueger fan, you're going to enjoy it. Now, it may not be as dark and scary as you want it to be, but it's still very enjoyable. It has a lot of references to the other films. The part with Julia, with the babysitter, oh my god, he's just dragging her, is just nuts. It's an awesome movie, and Robert Englund plays a great, great part. And it's just a very original film that is very well done, very smart, and well crafted. And in my number one spot, of course, is the original 1984 A Nightmare on Elm Street. This movie scared the living shit out of me. My brother-in-law showed this to me. We rented it at Hastings. He showed this to me at 6 years old without anybody's permission, and it scarred me for life until I saw Dream Warriors. But I have to thank because in an indirect way, later on, nothing else really scared me as much as the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Some parts are kind of campy and cheesy now, but you know what? It has atmosphere, and it is scary. I mean, this guy can kill you in your dreams, and he has personality. That's even more messed up. Michael and Jason are unstoppable, but they don't speak to you. You can run away from them. You can go to sleep somewhere. Freddy, he kills you while you're sleeping. Your body needs sleep, and that's just scary as hell. This is what got me into horror films, and A Nightmare on Elm Street will always be the best. As Drew Barrymore said in Scream, the original's the best, the rest suck. Nightmare on Elm Street is awesome. It does have some cheesy effects, but it's scary, dark. Freddy Krueger is a little bit comedic, but not like he was later with the one-liners. He's a dark, vicious child killer. Heather Langenkamp does a great job as Nancy. Johnny Depp's first movie, oh my god, Nick Corey, the other actors, you had that Tina basically being killed on the ceiling. The practical effects go a long way. The part with the wall, the rotating room with Johnny Depp, and it gets blood everywhere. Fantastic. And the score, that you forgot your hall pass. Just so many great iconic moments. Oh my god, there's just so many in this classic horror film. And Wes Craven has defined horror movies for decades. Last House on the Left in the 70s, Nightmare on Elm Street in the 80s, Scream in the 90s. And I miss him. This is a fantastic film directed by Wes Craven. And there really is no other character like Freddy Krueger or franchise like Nightmare on Elm Street. And I love the original. If you're watching this video, you're a Freddy fan, you know how great that original movie is. And it is an American movie classic, a horror film classic. And I just love everything about it. And Robert Englund, anybody else could have been Freddy, but it would have been some guy in a suit. He really added a lot more to the role, the physicality, the way the character is, mannerisms, just everything about that is great. And that whole backstory with the parents and him being a child killer and him wanting revenge. Everything about the movie is just so well done. And it was supposed to have a different ending, a definite ending, and they changed it to have a sequel. It's crazy because you start to question, is everything a dream or not? But that ending looks really bad now with the mom. Oh my god. But it's just crazy. That is my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film. I know your list is going to be different, but these are my personal favorites. So on this Halloween, or whenever you're watching this, feel free in the comments below. Let me know your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street films. What's your least favorite and most favorite? Anyway, I hope everyone out there has a happy Halloween. Sweet dreams.